I was broken. I was in a broken place. I had gone through a divorce. I had gone through the adoption of my biological son. I had really put myself in a place that I didn't really have any other option other than to cry out to God. Growing up, I was raised predominantly by my great-grandparents, and they did their best to give me a good moral code and to take me to church on Sunday and be in choir and things like that. But other than that, I didn't really have much of a view of what church was. Shortly after my great-grandparents passed away, I lived with my mom sometimes, and then I went back and forth between my mother and my father. And during those young adult years, during that time of really just turning into who I would be in my early adulthood, I was kind of searching for something. I was searching for something to give me meaning and to fulfill me. And I looked at things like the world type things of partying, of relationships with people, and eventually in my later teen years, I joined the Marine Corps. From that, I turned to a relationship, an unhealthy relationship, and in 2010, shortly after I got out of the Marine Corps, I ended up in the Salvation Army Hospitality House in San Bernardino. When I walked into the church, I was wearing the same clothes that I'd come into the shelter in. And I looked pretty rough at the time, but nobody asked me where I had come from. Nobody asked me why I was there or what I was doing there, but instead they opened their arms to me and they just welcomed me. And I think for me, that was the beginning of realizing that there was something different there. And for me, I realized that that's where I needed to be. I didn't really understand why at the time, and that was okay. It was okay to kind of just rest in knowing that it was where I needed to be and that God would provide a way for me to figure out why. So as I started volunteering at the Salvation Army, as I started getting involved and going to church more regularly, God opened a door for me to really just get back on my feet. I started working in a gym again. I was a personal trainer at the time, and it was really my dream job. Other than being a Marine, being a personal trainer was my dream job. But even though I went back into that profession, even though I went back to working there, I was making good money, I was around a lot of great people, but that's not where I wanted to be. Where I wanted to be was at the core, and I was almost conflicted. I was going back and forth trying to figure out, do I want to be here where I'm making money, where I'm around good people, or do I want to be here where I'm around good people and where I feel like God wants me to be? And it was in that time that I really just realized that I needed to quit my job, which, as crazy as that sounds, it's what I needed to do. And just wait to see what God had for me at the Salvation Army. And it was around that same time that I had gone to youth councils, and for me, when I looked at my officers, I saw great godly people, but they weren't me. And I tried to put myself in a box. I tried to put myself in a box of what I felt like God needed me to be to serve Him or to be used. And the youth councils I went to, I saw a cadet speak, and he was very animated. He had tattoos. He was himself, and I could see that he wasn't scared to be himself. And seeing that helped me to realize that God could use me, because if God could use him, if God could use all of these different people, He could also use me. And at that point, I just kind of said, okay, I'm ready, but I don't know what I'm ready to do or where I'm ready to go. I had fought for so much for so long. I had fought to be a Marine. I had fought to stay married in a marriage that was abusive. I had fought to rise above the situation that I was in San Bernardino. And what God wanted me to fight for was for Him, and to stand up and say that I was ready to be used by Him. And God equipped me, and God is still continuing to equip me and show me how to be a servant to Him, but how to be a servant to others. Maybe you have to look at things a little bit differently, but God can use each aspect of ministry. God can use each of us to reach a different person differently, and we just have to trust Him for that.